So you've decided to listen to the Reality Czars podcast. How brave of you. Nate and Paranoid American may think that they're merely discussing cryptozoology, interdimensional realities, and crude humor. But know this, listening to this podcast puts you on a certain list, the Clinton body count, if you will. The truths they reveal are not for the faint of heart, nor the blissfully ignorant. Listen if you dare, but remember, some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. And now, your hosts, those audacious explorers of forbidden knowledge, the Reality Czars, Nate and Paranoid American.
And we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is the Reality Czars podcast, and I'm your only host this moment, Nathan, but Thomas should be joining us in just a second. He was hungry, and I think he grabbed something to eat, so he should join us in a couple minutes. We are honored to have Tyranny, the truth seeker, back on. This is her second time on. I've heard some wild fucking tyrannical bullshit coming out of Canada. That's kind of the usual at this point. But this one seemed like even more fucking wild to me. So we had to have Tyranny on because, dude, her research is fucking awesome. She keeps up to date with this stuff, and she's just the person to talk to. So Tyranny, thank you. And everybody listening right now, there's definitely going to be a lag because both of our internets aren't the greatest, but that's okay. And Tyranny, thank you so much for joining us. When you hear this in a couple of seconds, would you tell our audience a little bit, what's the best way they can support you, best place they can find your work, and all that fun stuff?
So I'm on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram as Tyranny Truth Seeker 01011. Right now, we're trying to get my second website back up again after it was hacked the first time. So we're trying to find a way for it to not be hacked because they took everything, like all of the information, all of my research that was on there was taken off. And then Justin Trudeau decides to be a petty little potato, and he wants everybody now registered as an actual news source who has a podcast, and to give the government all of the information from our listeners and followers for the podcast. It doesn't matter what the podcast is about either. He wants the info.
You know, what's funny to me is that he absolutely could probably figure it out himself. But like these psychopaths, they want compliance. Like they're not just happy with like backdoor information gathering, because we know that the government is more than capable of like spying on us. They know exactly what we're doing. They want to know like what we're looking at on our phones, what porn we look at, every creepy thing about us. They know weird stuff about us that like they use like AI and algorithms to like know about us more than we fucking even know sometimes, but there's a level of compliance that they like demand. And so they want you to give them your audience. They want you to give them all your fucking information. And because it's like they want you to bend over and spread your butt cheeks is basically what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. And especially in Canada, like the government even admitted that they will keep monitoring all of our phones for the next 5 years after the pandemic has ended because they are concerned for our safety. So basically, the government of Canada is using any means necessary to basically stop any kind of information from getting out because of the trucker protests. Like that really scared Justin Trudeau. Like he shit his pants pretty much when that happened. And now he's basically locking down. And I keep telling people, let's go to Pornhub and start making videos there because no one's paying attention to what's on there. Some dude literally put up a video of Justin Trudeau talking and he wrote "guy fucks entire country," and he made probably, I don't know, $3,000 off of that video on Pornhub or something. But yeah, that dude's a hero. So, I mean, I don't know what we're going to do as Canadians, but we always figure it out. And there's no way of them stopping us talking unless they literally start paying for our phones and, you know, not allowing us to text or anything. But it's basically a race game. Like, we're trying to come up with a way to be able to communicate while the government still lies to us, and the government is trying to basically shut us down and quiet us all up. And so we're trying to figure out a way on how we can go around that while still being able to maintain a large enough audience to get a message across, right? So we just have to get creative, I think, and do things in a little bit more of an unorthodox way. And my friends and I are building website currently right now, and so hopefully I can actually start pushing out real information again, where I can't lose my account, like with the Pfizer paperwork that has been coming out and all of the vax injuries and things that other labs have come up with about the vaccines and their side effects. So I want to continue that like on my socials, but they have me so blocked. I had to email TikTok to get my algorithm back because they stopped counting my followers. Like, it wasn't moving at all, and they were like taking them away. I had to email them. Finally got it back a week later with like 3,000 followers added immediately to my account, dude. Like, they're doing everything here in Canada just to try and stop us from talking.
That's wild, man. You're doing the Lord's work, and that's why they're coming at you. Like, because we talk about like cryptids and say dick jokes. Like, occasionally we'll talk about serious things, and like, but you're doing like this serious work that like that people need to hear. So I appreciate it. And yeah, like we were talking about before we started recording, there is unorthodox methods out there, because like I know that there's like I've seen it where like people were starting like Pornhub site or accounts to like do serious stuff on there because there was less censorship. But it was like a couple of years ago, or maybe a year ago, like Pornhub like really cracked down, because it used to be more like open. It was more open source. Like almost anybody could like start an account and like upload any video you wanted. But they started attacking it because like there were people like seriously like posting awful things on there, like actual like RAPE kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like really terrible things. But to me, that probably reeks more of a psyop too. Like the government would probably post things like that to create the problem, to create the demand and the outcry. Like, hey, somebody has to fix this, right? So they're like, okay, well, we'll censor Pornhub. So I think you actually have to be like I honestly, dude, I don't know fucking shit about Pornhub, except that I think that you have to like create like a verified account now to like make things like this, because there were people that were literally talking about like, hey, maybe we can have our following move over there and we can talk about serious subject. But you were talking about too, like creating maybe like an OnlyFans account where it's just like conspiracy OnlyFans. And I think that's a really good idea. And I think, you know, honestly, like, I think if you do it, I think people will migrate over there. There is alternatives. There are solutions. And I think about it sometimes too. Like there was a young gentleman. His name was Duncan Lemp, and Duncan Lemp was a fucking brilliant, like a crypto anarchist is what they call him. Like he was a web designer. He was like a fucking hacker, and he like only cared about like freedom and gun rights and things like that. And he was executed by the state. Like those type of people are the real threats to the state, because like you were saying, it's a fight to keep up, right? Like you're trying to evade their censorship. And so there's always that battle with us, like, and the government is stupid, slow. It's a big giant. And so like people like us will always find a way around it. But like the people that are actually trying to write the code, like those people are the real threats. And so I think about that, like rest in peace, Duncan Lemp. He was killed by the state because he was one of the people that saw the threat of government tyranny, government censorship, government trying to take away your guns. And he was killed for his beliefs.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm gonna have to look into him because I haven't really heard anything about him. But I know if you're really good at hacking, you either end up dead or working for the government in some of the top places. Like I know that all of the hackers, including remember Anonymous was huge like in the early 2000s and they were like on our side. Well, every single anonymous like person now is either gone or they've joined and are working for the government because they get threatened so much, right? So it's kind of like it's your life over working for the government and hacking for them rather than hacking for the people. No matter how much we really want to kind of set freedom out there, at the end of the day, when they threaten you with your life, you know what I mean? Most people would back down. I mean, like 99.99%, right? Would back down and be like, okay, well, I don't know how much worth this is, you know, is it worth my life? Because so many people are asleep out there. It's so sad. And I'm noticing it like even more and more now after like the whole Israel Palestine thing, people are right back to before 2019. It's just, we're right back to like the first place. And I don't know how they manage to do this every time, even though all of the clues are there, dudes, you know? I don't know.
It's a major co-option of like and weaponizing information and things like that. Like I want to give a shout out. So rest in peace, Duncan Lemp. And we are going to just keep talking about him. I should probably start making more memes about him. There was like a movement a couple years ago. It was like hashtag his name was Duncan Lemp. So we can't let his name die. Another martyr to this, because like you said, the real ones are the ones that are dangerous. The real ones that won't give up. Those are the ones that end up either killed or imprisoned. I think about Ross Ulbricht. I don't know if you've heard of Ross Ulbricht. He was an agorist.
No.
So that's kind of the philosophy that I believe in. It's like black market anarchism, basically subverting the system, like subverting like the government. When the government tells you like, hey, if you don't have your fucking MAGA jab or your Brandon booster, you're not going to be able to participate. You won't be able to go to the store. You won't be able to use your bank account and things like that. What they would do, agorists are like black market anarchists. They're like, okay, well, how about we just trade in cash or goods, or we barter through like things like you like whatever your trade is, you help me build a fence or something, and I have dairy cows, so you can get milk and things like that. It's like that type of thing. That's like black market anarchism. It's called agorism. And so Ross Ulbricht started, and I'm gonna ruin this, but it was what the hell did they call that? The Silk Road, I think that's what it's called. I'm bad at so the Silk Road was the online marketplace where you could literally buy anything that you wanted, and they would trade in
the dark
Bitcoin.
web Silk Road, right?
Yep, that was Ross Ulbricht that designed that, and he was a young dude. He was like early 20s, and the government came and shut him down, and he literally had just made a marketplace, and he's in there, I think, for the fucking rest of his life or something. And he was a nonviolent young dude, clean record, was in college, smart, fucking, his name is Ross Ulbricht, really awesome guy. So I try to fucking talk about him when I can. So people need to remember people like Ross Ulbricht, and people need to remember people like Duncan Lemp, because those are like the martyrs for our cause for freedom. Those are the people need to remember their name. And just gotta keep fighting for them. I mean, they'll come for us someday too, but
see, I'm super bad with names, but I know everything about that guy. Like, oh, dude, yeah, we're definitely on the list. We're just like kind of in the middle, you know what I mean? Like they gotta get to us first. I'm surprised like black SUVs haven't shown up to my house, probably because I live out in the middle of nowhere and it's really hard to follow me because there's like no cars and people around. So you kind of can't make it that obvious. But I'm pretty sure if I was in a city, I'd have like some SUVs following me around everywhere.
I mean, I know that I'm not like,
but yeah, I definitely know who you're talking about. Like I'm super bad with names though.
Yeah, I know that I'm not like high level enough, but like I swear to God, a lot of times when I'm doing this podcast and I'm talking to like certain guests, there's goddamn helicopters that circle around my fucking house, and it feels like a warning. Like, but I'm just paranoid and
That's
delusional,
awesome.
probably. But
Oh, dude, I've noticed so much stuff on my phone. Like I've learned so much on how to get information of who's on my phone, if there's any spyware. My old phone, when I first started doing this and I started exposing Pfizer, it just went super slow. And I was like, dude, I think I've got spyware. And I went and looked at it, and there was an app that was downloaded without like even me knowing about it. It doesn't even exist in the app store because I tried looking it up. So I had to like go in and like delete everything, reset everything. Like it was wild. And I thought I was being paranoid. I'm like, there's no way, man. I'm just like some nobody living out in the middle of nowhere collecting information. There's no way they're going to care. But you always have that in the back of your head of like, this is a little weird. Like this shouldn't be happening. You know what I mean?
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just people, honestly, it's people that are curious. That's like the first red flag because most of the time when I fucking talk to people and I
Yep.
ask them a question that is like outside of like, like, did you watch Kim Kardashian last night? Like you see their eyes, they kind of glaze over. Like, like that literally the fucking world is full of fucking zombies. And so if you have any sort of like curiosity at all, like I think that you instantly get put on a fucking list. It's just by like things that you Google. It's things that like even the way you interact with it, because let's say you have fucking Facebook, and you're like scrolling through something, and they try to like they'll send you like these fucking ridiculous, stupid ads about like some celebrity that I've never heard of. And they'll be like, "Did you hear about this controversy because she called her, somebody a cunt or something?" And like, I don't give two fucks. And so I think they read like literally Facebook like watches you. They watch your eyes. They watch your eyes like where they fall on the screen, how long you like look at something, how long you like pay attention to it. Like they analyze things about you. And like I mean things like that are probably enough to put you on a list where you're like when you just scroll past that and don't give a fuck because they're trying to poison your fucking mind with this shit. Like, I don't know. It's fucking wild. This is
Oh,
like a
dude.
big social experiment.
It is honestly, and they do watch it because I notice on Pinterest, I'll kind of because somebody on TikTok said that your camera takes pictures of your face, like infrared camera takes a picture of your face
Apple.
almost every 5 seconds, like off of your iPhone and any phone. And so I did that with Pinterest. Yeah, Apple, especially Apple, because I got an Apple phone. So I would on Pinterest look at one picture on there to see if it's running my eyes in that direction. And it, lo and behold, whatever picture I look at without clicking on it or anything, it will start showing me more of that stuff. So I'm like, oh man, they're watching our facial recognition. They're watching our eyes. They're probably watching our retinas, whether they dilate or not, if we get excited, and all of that other stuff. And they're collecting so much information on us to make us basically automated, to join us in with like AI. And that's why everybody's such a freaking robot. Like, I was trying to figure out how they got everyone back in line with like taking sides and all of this other stuff. And I swear the cult like fundamentalism, I guess, on every side is absolutely growing wild. Like I did like a video about Halloween candy. Dude, I've got people telling me to go to hell and that like I am worshiping Satan, like they're minor, right? But like it's just people are freaking unhinged lately, and I don't know what the hell is going on with them. I need wine, a lot of it, just to survive.
I feel that. I'm drinking some whiskey right now. Yeah, it's absolutely necessary sometimes. No, I feel you. Especially here's the whole thing because like I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm a weirdo, I'm a mystic, and I consider myself a Christian. And so like at the same time that like the right wing and the conspiracy theorists, they like to
Same.
pretend Yeah. They like to pretend that they are like um not cancel culture people, but at the same time they're the first ones to attack you and say that, hey, because you said this or because you believe this, you're a piece of shit and you're going to hell. And you're like you're the same thing as like a fucking SJW with their head shaved and their blue hair that says that I'm a Nazi because I think men are women, or sorry, men are men and women are women. So it's the same kind of mentality where people get caught up in like cult like behavior and cult like beliefs. And if you ideate from the orthodoxy, you're a bad person. And I'm like, well, okay, well, I love Jesus. Jesus is my God, but I also don't tell other people how they can connect with the creator, because how the fuck do I know? so like so people you know what I mean? Like, I think there is one creator, and I do think that all of these cultures from all around the world have been telling the same exact story, because there's like a myth or a story about the Great Flood in just about every fucking religion. And so we're all talking about the same thing. So maybe we're all worshiping the same God. And if I start talking like that, then the Christians will be like, you're not a Christian. It's fucking silly. And so God forbid you give out candy to kids on Halloween, you fucking devil worshiper.
Oh my gosh. It is so true. And the worst part is I keep telling people, I'm like, we can't have these thoughts. Like if somebody wants to have a relationship with a god or a deity or whatever, that is between them and their relationship with that. And I keep telling people that the religious books were meant to teach us the true history through metaphor, right? The dogma of religion was made by a human being, not by God. Like I can't see God making me as a woman and then being like, yeah, your hair sucks. Can you like cover it? You know what I mean? Like your hair is bad. It's like, why did you make me with hair, dude? And it's just like some of this wild dogma stuff that we have in religion. I keep telling people, I'm like, listen, human beings came up with that. Like the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, they were all basically made for us to read and then metaphorically try and figure out what it says and means to us so that we can have a relationship with God with however we kind of see fit, as long as we all follow rules to not hurt each other and respect each other. And to me, that is like such a simple thing. You know what I mean? Like I could have neighbors with like different religions. They could invite me over and I'd be like, yeah, I'll celebrate with you. Why not? You know what I mean? Like I don't believe in it, but I'll celebrate and help you, be joyous in your religion and whatever. And you can do the same for me. And we can both live very happily and respect each other's opinions, but then keep to each other's lifestyles. And it's just people are so like, it amazes me the ego of people and how much they want others to live exactly like them and follow their steps. But that's not what makes us human or gives us the innovation that we have as humans. We
Yeah,
need to be different. We need to, explore differently. We need to push boundaries differently, right?
100%. Yeah, 100% agreed. And it seems like this. See, I'll get spicy here for a minute. It seems like there's one group of people that want to censor whether you're on the right or the left. The same type of group that claims to be like right wing and anti cancel culture. But the second that you start talking about the Israeli and Palestinian conflict, they're quick to try to shut you down. The same people that tried to shut down Kanye West, the same people that are trying to shut down uh trying to shut down discourse. Like I think one of the best memes that I saw is like, I've never had a Palestinian try to take away my social media and try to take away my bank account. I'm like,
Oh man, that's brutal, but so true.
yeah, you start seeing who
Everybody
the real
should
cancel
call for
culture is.
ceasefire. Like we need to do a yeah, and then everyone's like bashing Gen Z now, because Gen Z's like, we're not going to war. And I'm like, yeah, dudes, don't. You know what I mean? Make fun of it. Because if they don't have people to fight their wars, then they're going to be left with no one to fight them, and we won't have any more wars. You know what I mean? So as long as people wake up and they realize, hey, I'm not fighting a war for the elites and the rich. It's not for your country or for like your freedom. It's literally for corporations who want to rebuild certain areas into, destinations, tourist destinations, 15-minute cities. And I'm actually kind of proud of Gen Z for being totally like, do not give an F about anything. You know what I mean? They're like, if you send us to war, we're just going to cry. And I'm like, yes, do that, dudes. Like,
no, you're absolutely right. Like, people talk a lot of shit about this generation, but like, I have a son that's 16. So he is firmly in the Zoomer camp. And I tell you what, like, interacting with him and his friends, I'm actually hopeful as fuck with this generation. Like, they don't buy into the fucking propaganda. A lot of them know that it's just bullshit and lies. I mean, there is a giant segment of them that are just like nihilistic and lost and fucking scared, and they have no fucking personality, or they have no what's the right word for it? They don't know who the fuck they are. They don't have an identity. And that's why they're so quick and easy to fall for like this, like, hey, maybe you're a male, maybe you're a female trapped in a male's body, that type of thing. And that part is really fucking tragic, because that's just further, to me, that's just more and more population control. That's more of the fucking eugenics, where they're like, hey, well, if we sterilize them now, they'll never have babies. That sort of thing. That's where I see that coming from. Like, that's just more eugenic psychopath, like, assholes. But dude, honestly, this generation is probably the most right wing that I've ever seen. And they don't even know what right wing means. They're just like, they're seeking and wanting order. They're seeking and wanting things to make sense. They're seeking and wanting things to, they want something solid. And I'm hopeful as fuck with this generation, because there's so much of them that are anti-woke as fuck. It's way fucking awesome.
they really are. Yeah, like there's actually studies coming out right now that the new generation, they're calling them like super conservative, but it's just because they honestly don't believe in anything that's coming out. And I actually find like the whole trans issue really kind of heartbreaking and sad, in the sense of, I understand what it's like not being, comfortable with yourself and your own body. We've all gone through that, right? Like, we've all been teenagers. We've all been awkward as fuck. We've all been weird. You know what I mean? Like, I still, till this day, like, I'm on the spectrum. Everyone's like, are you on drugs? And I'm like, no, just on the spectrum. Like, can you imagine me on drugs? But like, so I understand like kids being lost, not knowing who they are. And then they get this push. And I understand, like, trying things out. Like, I thought I was like goth for like 6 months. Like, it was just a really weird time. I look at pictures back then, I'm like, burn that. No one needs to see that ever. Right.
I
so
thought
it kind
I was
of like, it breaks my heart to know that they're going through this, and, that they don't really have somebody for guidance. Sorry.
Like you said, burn those pictures. Yeah, I thought I was a thug, and I used to act like I was a gangster, and good God, nothing could be more cringier. Yeah.
I literally got gum in my hair once, and it was like up here, and I had to cut my hair. I looked like a hockey player. Everyone thought I was a dude from behind. I was like, we do not need to have that yearbook in the house. Like, we can use it for a fire starter. Like, no one needs to see that. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely, I feel what you're saying as
good
far
old
as
high
like
school.
young people, and like feeling compassion for them. Honestly, like when I see these young trans kids, like I knew that I was lost as fuck as a teenager. I was looking for an identity. I grew up without a dad because my dad was a fucking heroin addict and a piece of shit. So I tried to be a fucking tough guy, and I was mostly just scared all the time, but I was like ready to fight anybody to prove that I was a fucking man, I was just a fucking goof ass. And like I could have easily been swayed into like, oh, everyone will like me and think I'm cool if I chop off my wiener. Like I don't know if I would have fell for it, but you know what I mean? Like young, impressionable fucking kids, it's like it's really sad, dude. Like there's a generation of lost kids. And that is exactly why these psychopaths target children and why they use social media to expertly, and they use AI and different analytics to like really, like this goes back to man, what the fuck is his name? What's his name? Edward Bernays and the whole propaganda and trying to like that whole marketing type of thing where they're weaponizing marketing and trying to see if they can like manipulate people's behavior and the way they fucking live their life and manipulate their identity. And like they've gotten very good at it. This is like we're living MK Ultra now. It's wild.
Oh yeah, and they basically started all of this in the 70s with the hippies, right? They were the first generation to go against their parents. And then it was the 80s kids with rock and roll, then it was us in the 90s, right? And then you had like other kids in the early 2000s with the whole over sexualization, tattoos. And so they just kind of kept pushing and pushing. You know what I mean? First, it started with just music and, being love and anti, the conservative outlook. Then it became like the rock and roll, more of an aggressive aspect of things. Same with 90s. Like the 90s were mainly what? Metal, grunge, like that kind of like really aggressive thing came out. Then in early 2000s, when like I hit high school, it was basically like this over sexualization of girls, and then the boys kind of followed. Like I remember girls wearing like the tiniest pants with like their thongs sticking out of their ass. Remember that? That was so bad.
I remember it.
And then I show up looking great. Like Oompa Loompa. It's like I was a
nerd. Yeah.
See, I knew some of the guys like that stuff, but if you were like a girl and you're like on the opposite of not popular, it was horrible, man. But yeah, so I think they've been just trying to push it slowly, and now they're going to be pushing the gender thing. And I think the next generation, they're going to be pushing for kids to get chipped, just like they did with the tattoos, to go against your parents. You know what I mean? So we just have to be, I think, honest with kids, because they can understand a lot more. They're just confused, just like we were. Emotions are high because everything seems like it's serious. But as long as we're open with our kids and we tell them what happened in our generation and then what's happening in theirs, and we listen to them, we give them a little bit of freedom, and you communicate with them like an actual adult, I think a lot of kids will then realize what's happening on their own, because most kids are smart to see like what is happening. Unfortunately, some kids will get caught up into it and they're not actually trans. And then you have those kids who actually are trans. And like, you know what I mean? I personally believe that everybody should be allowed to live how they want to live, right? Because that's what I want. So who am I to judge if somebody wants to be trans or if someone wants to be LGBTQ? You know what I mean? Like, hey, dude, more power to you. You live your way, I live my way. And we can all respectfully just live on this planet together because it's big enough. We just don't have to tell each other how to live our lives. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm pretty chill.
I 100% agree with you, dude. I 100% agree with you. And unfortunately, honestly, that's why we always lose, is because we are the nicer people. We do want to let people live the way they want to live because we appreciate freedom. We actually do appreciate freedom, and we want to be able to live the way fucking we want to live. And so we want to allow other people to live the way they want to live. But when you allow that fucking virus in, it carries like something with it, and again, with the people that shall not be named, or else his YouTube channel will disappear. There is an actual ideation, like an ideology, and a fucking like, because like you can go back to like World War I. This, like, when the first transgender movement started, it started in Weimar, Germany. And it was a particular group of people that were doing this, certain doctors that were doing this to the youth, and they were changing they were doing the first transgender surgeries, and they were trying to like again weaponize this whole idea. And it's absolutely it comes from a certain place and a certain type of people that are fucking pushing these awful agendas, like because like in the same way where like I don't care what an adult does with their body, like I believe in full like complete bodily autonomy. Like if you want to commit suicide,
Exactly.
you should be able to do whatever you fucking want to yourself. My only problem is when they start targeting the fucking youth, when they start targeting the kids, because they are so fucking manipulatable at this place, right? Because they don't know certain things. They don't have the wisdom behind it. Like, dude, I was actually having this conversation today with my
Yeah.
son because a friend of his had a girlfriend that when they broke up, she tried to kill herself, and she like she got in a vehicle and like tried to slam into a tree and tried to fucking kill herself. And then I'm sitting there having this conversation with him, and like I'm like, man, I have
Ooh.
so much fucking compassion for the youth that are like, because I think back now, like I have years of wisdom and I have tons of forethought. I'm like, I can't imagine a single ex of mine that would be worth killing myself over. But when you're that age in that moment, the only thing that matters is right now, and you can't think ahead, and you're just like, oh my god, I lost this person, they broke up with me, my life is fucking over. Like everything is black and white when you're young, because you don't have the wisdom, you don't have the gray, you don't have the whole,
Yeah.
you don't have the whole fucking thing yet. And so it's so fucking tragic, and that is exactly why they are targeting the youth, because they are so fucking moldable, right? They're so fucking, you can do all these things to them. And I think that eventually if you get them through a certain age group, because like I used to joke and say that young men needed to be put like, because for me it was totally true, like from like the years of like 15 to 22 I should have been locked in a cage, like in padlocked, like in a kennel every night, like like because like I was such a fucking wild psycho. Like like young men are fucking nut jobs, like
Oh
we
my
have too
gosh.
much testosterone and like too much hormones, and we're like ready to fight and fuck and like and do anything, like we're just assholes. And it's like if you learn to weaponize that, like to me it's wild, because like you were talking about like the different generations, you were talking about like in the 70s the hip, or the 60s were the hippie movement, and then you had like the 70s, and then the 80s were these like the goth weird type of like ska kids, right? And then you had the 90s grunge kids. Like when you find out that all of those different movements and things, like none of them were ever actually genuine, that like the government has actually been like using and manipulating and trying to like, they create the culture of the youth so that they can like control the youth, and they can move it in any direction they want. Like there's no reason why like 15-year-old kids should be really upset about the climate right now, because it's complete bullshit. The climate change narrative is complete bullshit. And they
Yeah.
like take these fucking kids and they're like, yeah, go super glue your hand to a fucking car and in the middle of the road so that, like it's so fucking stupid. And it's so manipulated. It's not true.
I've
It's not it's not from the
yep.
ground type of movement. It's from the top to the bottom. It's all just complete bullshit.
It really is. And any movement that is started from the bottom up gets shut down right away. So, or they get labeled terrorists, if you've noticed that. So any movements, like I watch these movements like, the BLM protests, and I was like, okay, the reason why they're letting them burn all of this down is because of real estate. So if you ruin something through a protest, or like, you get into a really bad neighborhood, you can lower those prices and you can come in and sweep it up like real estate, like super easy. And the biggest real estate holder is BlackRock in the world, right? So why wouldn't they want to ruin things through war, through protests, through, just uneasy chaos. And then with what you end up happening is you raise a bunch of these kids that are super easily controlled, right? Like they raised us on what? Simpsons, Jackass, South Park. I don't know how the hell they thought we were all going to get vaccinated. I'm like, you raised a bunch of like feral millennials who have like we use memes as a form of therapy. All of us have like a dark sense of humor, like we've just been in the military.
They fucked up.
It's so true. So now what they're trying to they fucked up so bad with us millennials and Gen X's, dude. Like I see Gen Xers just like ready to freaking like go over to Palestine and Israel and end it like with both sides. Like they do not even care. They're like, I'm sick of this shit. I don't want to be here. I don't want to fucking pay bills. And then you have millennials who are like, I'm not fucking working like 70 hours a week in an office. You know what I mean? So they're going off like starting like, the small communities and all that other shit. But I'm actually pretty proud of Gen Z though, because I don't think they're going to be able to actually achieve what they wanted to achieve with this generation for the next pandemic, which is probably going to be around 2030, 2029. They do something every 10 years to kind of like keep it even for the trauma that they're pushing on us. But the amount of, I guess, am I allowed to say unaliving? I'll say unaliving.
Anything you want on here.
Teenagers now is so sad. Like, anything? Okay, like the amount of suicides I've heard from young people under 24 to 16 in the last, I'd say 3 months, absolutely staggering. It is so sad how depressed our youths are. And I know we were as well as millennials, but we just, used memes and alcohol as a way of dealing with it. And then now we're all traumatically screwed up. But like this new generation is really feeling the stress of everything that the governments and these elites have put us through, like really bad. And I feel bad for them.
Yeah, no, I feel that too. Like the youth is definitely lost in a certain way. It's something too, like you were saying, it's just like, it's exactly why they are targeting the youth right now. Cause like, man, there was definitely a time when I was a young person that like, I could have easily been swayed to fucking kill myself, but, there was something that I was going to touch on. I think it was
same.
Like you
like
said,
trust me, same. Like there were times where I thought about it.
There was something that you were touching on about like I guess us millennials and us being like raised by like South Park and raised by like CKY and Jackass and things like that. I think that there was like a conscious like they were trying to take us away from like the orthodoxy of the church, because I think that there is something to like the church, because like the state wants to be the one that's in charge. And so I think that they were trying to like weaponize, I guess, degeneracy and making it look really fucking cool. But and there is something to that, because like,
yes.
But more so, I think that backfired too, because they were trying to create a new orthodoxy. And so our generation was so anti-orthodoxy that like their new routine is not appealing, because we were like, no, fuck your team too. There's something to that where
yeah.
And there's something to that where like we're not going to be the easily manipulated ones, because we were I guess raised at a young age to question authority. And I mean, I fucking sometimes I like that's what I taught my son, because I was a young anarchist, and I was like raising my son, and I was like, hey, question absolutely everything that you're told. Anything your teacher says, like anything they say, like they might be right, they might not be. And question why they're fucking telling you that. Like think about like, why are they trying to tell me this? Like, like deeper. And I was like, question the things that I'm telling you. And that, sometimes I would regret that, because he'd actually take me up on it and start questioning the things that I was saying to him. But it was good. And now I have a strong-minded teenager who does question everything. And he comes to me with theories. He'll show me memes. He'll be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And he's a fucking bright kid, and he has a good friend group that maybe they want to smoke pot and stuff, but like they're not fucking psychos. Like they're good fucking kids. And I got a lot of hope for this future generation because guess what? They fucked up on the millennials, and now we're the ones that are creating the next generation, and we're raising these kids. So there's something to that too.
Exactly. Honestly, I think that I definitely think there is, and a lot of, I mean, I can't have kids, so I don't have kids, but I look back when I was a teenager, you know what I mean? And I think the only thing that parents can do is really be there for their kids, right? In the sense of the way of let's discuss, let's be able to have discussions. And I mean, everyone makes mistakes. Mistakes are completely okay. Like, it's not like they're going out and murdering people, you know what I mean? Or like stealing from old people. Like, if they make a mistake, it's so minor when it comes to the grand scheme of life that I think as long as kids know that they're safe from being able to learn from the mistakes and being able to come to you as a parent and talk to you, that's by far the best thing you can do for a kid instead of trying to like raise them in a bubble, right? But trying to raise them normal never works out. Like I know so many kids who were like bubble kids and they have not turned out anything like their parents wanted them to. As a matter of fact, it's like a 180 opposite his whole life, and now he's like flashing people at the park, and you're like, dude, what did you create here, man? You know what I mean? So I definitely think like as long as people talk to their kids and are open with them and all of that stuff, that's the best thing you can do as a parent. But the fact that Gen Zs have Gen X and millennial parents, dude, we're totally creating like little shitheads that are anti-government, and I love it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that you're right as far as like the bubble doesn't make a good kid. Like I honestly, I under fucking stand the mentality and the reason why people want to put their kids in a bubble because you hear people that'll sit there and complain about like the wokeness of this generation and stuff, and then you say like, well, do your kids go to public school? And they'll oftentimes say, well, yeah. And I'm like, well, there's a quote from a guy that, and I'm going to ruin the quote. I'm going to ruin, and I don't remember the name of the guy, but there you'll understand what I'm saying. Where he says like, you can't send your kids to Rome and be shocked when they come back Roman. And so there's this idea where like we can't like when we put our kids in public education, we know how corrupt the state is. We know their agenda. We know that they're anti-life. We know that they want us to kill ourselves slowly. They want us to live long enough where they can milk any type of like productivity from us. They want us to work in their factories. They want us to keep the war machine going. And then they want us to fucking quietly kill ourselves before we get too old, because then we spend all that money that they promised us, that they stole from us for Social Security, right? So they want us fucking dead, right? So like the whole idea of like putting your kid in a fucking bubble, I understand why people do that, but like kids also need to, there's a balance, right? Where you don't want to put your kid to see the most evil things in the world, but they also have to know those things exist. And they have to know where you're coming from and why you believe what you believe, why you have your certain convictions, what you're protecting them from. They have to know the enemy. You have to know who your enemy is. Otherwise, if you put like a kid in a complete bubble, then they're going to be like, what the fuck, mom? Why like I'm not, because like I grew up like fundamental Christian, hard fundamental Christian, where their whole idea of birth control was like, all right, you just don't have sex and you don't think about sex and you don't even look at girls and you can't masturbate and you can't like you can't do any of these things, right? And it was like you can't raise a teenager that way. So what did I do? I ran around and started having sex with everything. I was such a dirtbag. Like I talk about this on the podcast sometimes. I knocked up 3 girls before I was out of high school. Like one girl had a miscarriage, one girl had an abortion, and one girl
Oh
had my
wow.
son. And so it you can't control
Oh,
a child. You can't control because you're like trying to contain like humans. We are a powerful spiritual being, and you can't control it, but you can try to guide it, right? And so like I think too many people, like you were talking about, just like putting kids in a goddamn bubble. It's not gonna fucking work.
yes.
It's not gonna work, but you can, like, you're like, hey, this is what I found. This has been my
No,
journey. And at some point, like, your job as a parent is to give them fucking the ability to fly and go any direction they want. And hopefully they've held on to a little bit of nugget of wisdom that you've been able to give them. But if you try to force it down their throat, they're going to go the exact opposite.
exactly. And honestly, I found that as well because my parents growing up were always like, you get to choose whatever religion you want. Like, like this is what we do, but you get to choose when you get older and like we won't punish you. They were super strict about school just because they're Slavic parents. So it was kind of like, if you get an A, we love you. If you get a B, you're like a family disgrace kind of thing. So they took it a little too far there. You know what I mean? And you can kind of see where like my certain perfectionism and all of that little bit of things that I need to work on come from. But I think a lot of people don't understand that, yeah, you know what, that kid is yours. He's an extension of you, or she's an extension of you. However, she isn't or he isn't who you are or who you want them to be. I think a lot of people need to realize that these are basically human beings that have their own feelings, their own thoughts. And the only thing that you can do is give them as much knowledge, talk to them as much as possible in a balanced way, of course, age appropriate. For like, you're not going to tell a 5-year-old, hey, there's a bunch of elites that want to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, it's got
You
to
gotta
be
wait
age
till they're
appropriate
10.
with which information that you give them. But like you said, always make sure that exactly, yeah, and that they question everything and everybody, you know what I mean? So yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Sorry, my dogs
100%.
are around here. I've got 2 mini horses. They're like 200 pounds between them.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine. I have teenagers around here, so they're like horses too, just less tame. There's something to this whole idea of. I think the older that I get, they
Sorry, go
say that
ahead.
you. Sorry, I was gonna say that like the older I get, they say that you turn more conservative, and I do, and I am in a certain way. I am more conservative, but I tell you what, like there's so many like co-options. Like you're talking about this young generation that doesn't want to work like 70 hours in an office, and there's something to that. Like the older I get, the less capitalistic I am. I think I'm more anti-capitalist the older I get because I realize that like the whole idea of libertarianism and the whole idea of this like freedom movement has kind of been co-opted, psyoped. There of where they have like told people like, "Hey, the government is bad, the government is evil, but these corporations, they're good. The corporations are okay. They're anti-government and things like that." Where I think that I think the young people get it too. And I think that our generation has to catch on to that too. And where I'm not talking about being like a goofball leftist socialist. I'm not anti-capitalist in that sort of way, but like people, I think the big psyop that people on the right wing have is that somehow they think like maybe Amazon is a good guy, maybe Pfizer is a good guy. Maybe like these
Oh boy.
like you have to realize that like these corporations are just as evil and just as fucking corrupt as any government, except that you know what? They're less accountable. Like they're less accountable to the people. And we actually keep them around by through government subsidies. Like we can't control that because they are extensions of the government. um and I think people need to realize that too, that a lot of these corporations are just extensions of the government. um but we also give these people our time, we give these people our money, we work at these corporations. And I'm not one of the people that tell people they shouldn't work hard, because that to me is a goofball. Like, these commies, they don't want to fucking work hard. They want to be able to go and like do underwater basket weaving and lesbian dance theory in college and get it for free. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm saying, like,
lesbian dance theory, dude.
we need
That was
a
mint.
young we need like young people to become their own boss and work for themselves and create something. We need more creators. And because I mean, when we literally, like, what is money? Money is just an
Yes.
extension of what is time. Like, you know, like this whole idea of like we're um they give us money in exchange for our energy and our time, which is our life force, which is the certain amount of time that we are allowed to live and breathe on this planet. And the whole idea again of like when the Bible says, like, what is the root of all evil? It is the love of money. And just this whole, that's their way of corrupting us and corrupting our soul and who we are, is like these corporations will fucking like steal these young brilliant fucking minds. Like, I remember listening to this podcast. It is a podcast with Michael Malice, and I think it's called You're Welcome. Good podcast, everybody should be listening to it. And he talks about like the siphon of these young brilliant minds, like the smartest people were getting sucked into like Wall Street. And Wall Street would take these young brilliant minds and they would put them into these like cubicles and have them just sit there and crunch numbers that literally don't mean anything, because it's all just like money. It's like Babylonian money magic. It's all like, again, the group that shall not be named, just manipulating us, manipulating our money. And so in that way, they're manipulating our energy, and they keep this Ponzi scheme going. They keep this like charade and magical fucking system going, where we're all like fighting to keep this fucking cycle going. And they're just robbing us fucking blind, when we should be putting our energy and our life force and our hard work and our own homestead for our own family, and like taking care of our community and who we are and our people, and just the people we love, the people we want to spend time with. So in that way, I've become a hard anti-capitalist. Like, I say, fuck the system. I want to see like, I feel like I'm embodying like I've like George Carlin at this point, where George Carlin, like, people look at him and they were like, I like, he was fucking right, dude. He was just as anti-left as he was anti-right. Like, fuck the government. Also, fuck your corporation.
Exactly. Exactly. And the one thing I've noticed now, since like the liberals kind of are leaning off of their agenda because they took it way too far, is now I keep trying to tell the conservative side, I'm like, hey, you guys can't take it too far either, because I'm going to start calling out like everybody, you know what I mean? It just depends on what time and who is in power right now, so that people need to understand they need to not just check politicians so they don't go far, but they need to check their own hypocrisy, right? So, I mean, like in the past, I would have been considered a libertarian, a centrist, you know, somebody with rational sides for both. Now I'm considered like alt-right, which I'm not in the sense of the way. Two, I have always sort of been, I guess, anti-capitalist, but my whole thing was to get off grid, not need money, except for tax, right? Because like they can take your house away if you don't pay land taxes. And that was the only thing that I needed, right? I'm like, I will have everything. I can hunt, I can grow, I can, but I needed that money in order to get to that certain place. But in order to get to that place, I had to then differentiate what the TV told me I needed versus what I want, right? Basically, you just need food, clothing, and shelter. That is what you need in order to survive, with water, right? And then everything else is just an extra want. So as long as my brain told myself that's a want, not a need, that's how I was able to save up enough money to be able to get out of like the matrix, not really matrix, but society in general. And it's really weird because I have more in common with like hippies on the left, because they're like, yeah, we're just out here like, you know, weaving baskets. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm doing that at my house too. You know what I mean? And there you'll see like conservatives who are like, no, you should be working all the time and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't think I fit into anywhere except for to the people who don't fit in anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, let's make a little group.
That's the other side of the psyop, where they like there's this group of people on the right that are supposed to be the freedom fighters, and you're supposed to be like they're supposed to be the ones that care about like human autonomy and freedom, but they're also those are the persons that will shut you down and try to cancel you at the same time if you like speak out about like the atrocities of Israel. If you talk about like anything, if you talk about Donald Trump,
Yeah.
you claim to like about like right-wing conservative values, you're like, oh, well, he was on his third marriage and he was like fucking porn stars. Oh, is he also a giant piece of shit? You know, you talk about like, things like that. You like, then they
Yeah.
are like the first ones to get so upset and angry at you because you're not supposed to point out that hypocrisy. You're supposed to overlook that, you know, because Donald Trump is the savior, you know, this goofball bullshit. So fuck the right wing too. At least the corporate right wing. Like I find myself like reading like Julius Evola. I start reading like hard fascist like material, and I'm like, maybe I'm right wing in a different way, where it's like the whole adoption of like natural rights, natural rules, but like also natural hierarchy, and wanting like a law and order in a way that like there's like a different right, and like that sounds wild. Like people are gonna get upset that I said that, but like I'm right. I'm like more right wing than any of you conservatards. But like in a way that I'm like I'm talking about a different bird. I'm not on your goofball left
No,
and right.
I
bird
totally
over
get
there.
it, man.
Like it's wild, man. It's wild. But like I'm also fucking left as fuck, and like the fact that like I do genuinely want people to live their own lives the way they fucking want to live it. And I don't want to tell you what the fuck to do. And it, you know, it's one of those things too where like personally in my own life, I'm pro life as fuck, where like I think abortion is absolutely stone cold fucking murder. You're taking away a life that the creator allowed on this place. Like I think there's something special that happens the second that fucking sperm cell goes into an egg, and the moment of conception. I think that there's something special and magical about that. There is a spark of life that comes from the creator, a spark of divinity that happens right there at that moment. But I'm also the first person to say I don't think that necessarily laws are going to do anything about that, and that we shouldn't have laws about that, and that we shouldn't outlaw and arrest like women that have that, you know, and like at some point, like if you actually care about bodily autonomy, like I don't know, I think that it has to be a cultural thing where we have to if you actually care about like the youth, and you care about like a child being born, you have to at the same time, because like these young girls that are they're so close to fucking suicide themselves. They're so nihilistic, and they're so fucking black pilled that they don't fucking see a future for themselves. Why would they fucking bring a child into this world? You have to be able to uh paint a goddamn picture and give them a fucking alternative, and say like, hey, we actually care about you, we love you. Like that to me is like the extension of like Christ. And like that to me, like the whole idea of like the church, Like, it's not a building. We are the body of Christ. Like, if you want to see more children brought into this world and less babies die, well, make that goddamn alternative. Make that alternative where you say, like, hey, if you keep, I know that you're poor, I know that you're scared, I know that that dude that you fucked, I'm sorry, like, it sucks. Like, we could call you a whore. Is that gonna make it better? Like, okay, you were fucking
Yeah.
13 and you had sex with some
No.
dude, you fucking whore. Or is that gonna make things better, you piece of shit? No. So you have to fucking talk to her, and you have to be like, hey, do you know that Jesus loves you? Do you know that I love you? Do you know that, like, hey, this child inside you is special? Do you know that we need to we'll fucking buy you diapers, we'll fucking buy you baby food. We actually fucking care about you and this child after it's born. Like, to me, conservatives are so fucking, they have their heads up their ass and they just preach bullshit, but they don't actually believe
Yeah,
it.
see, that's true too. The worst part is it's like if there was an option for the baby to have a healthy life like without abortion. So let's say put it in the system, and I've seen the system abuse these kids way more than, I mean, like, you hear the foster system, yeah, you hear churches abusing children, right? So then there's so many different, how should I say this, scenarios in people's lives that we cannot be the judge of, right? We're not God, we're mere mortals. So, I mean, in some cases, you're saving that child's life from being tortured and, raped and all of that thing, put into like a system that will sexually exploit children, right? So, like, abortion will fix that. At the same time, the moral value is you're taking a life away, which I definitely believe it is murder, right? Then you have different types of things. Like, for example, I can't have kids. If I get pregnant, both me and the child will die. So, but I knew that at 21, so I know how to take care of it. But had I not known and it was an accident, both the child and I would be gone within like 3 months of pregnancy, right? So there's like different types of scenarios. And a lot of people just try and categorize everybody into like three different scenarios. It's like, dudes, that's never going to happen. Like, yeah, I get it. Some people are poor. Some people don't have money. Some people are literally just trying to save that child from going into trafficking and being trafficked. You know what I mean? Other people are just heartless murderers, and they're like, yeah, I've got the means, I could do it, but I just don't want to. And they're being selfish. Those people are absolutely horrible. You know what I mean? And so it's just really weird when we start talking about certain moral things. But I think the safe option should always be there, whether I agree or disagree with another woman's choice. That is I will not even say that, just because there's so many different aspects of things. However, I think everybody should be allowed to make their own decision, and then when the time comes and we get our judgment days, we all just have to sit down, pull our pants up, be big boys and girls, and take the judgment that we get for the life that we've lived. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, like, we're not God. We're not gonna make everybody walk the path of light or path of whatever. Plus, we're all interpreting what this path of light is. You know what I mean? Like, we have these books and we're interpreting them, and we're interpreting them in our sense of reality of today's world, not understanding the world that was. You know what I mean? So we're all interpreting this, and we could have all interpreted it wrong. You know what I mean? So I think everybody should be allowed to do what they want as long as they're an adult. You know what I mean? Like, you're an adult, you made, or like, if you're 13 years old, you want to make that decision, you should be able to have a safe place to make that decision with, not be pushed in or one way. Now, what the Planned Parenthood and these clinics do with these fetuses, that needs to be freaking investigated, man. Like, that is creepy stuff, choice for their own life and their own child or future child, in the sense of the way, I know it's a really hard subject to talk about, but I don't know. I think that's all I've got to say is I'm not God and I'm not going to judge. And I don't think anybody else is God and they shouldn't judge. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know.
You touched on a lot of things right there. And I think, so absolutely, as far as like religions go and things like that, like, I think about when I was a child and I would look at these elders, these people that I like held in high regard, and then you become an adult and you interact with people that are other adults, and you're like, oh, adults are just kids that just they're older and they fucking pretend they know what they're talking about. Like like people are idiots. So like the whole idea that like that like these elders in the church have some fucking grand like knowledge that you don't, like sometimes yes, like there is some knowledge, but like there is no definitive answers, and like there is no like this is right, this is wrong. Like I mean there is right and wrong. I'm not saying that, but you know, it's just like this church is the only way. You're like, shut the fuck up. You know, that doesn't exist. There is no one church that has all the fucking answers. There's no cosmic like this is the only path. So I think people need to realize that firstly. Then secondly, like what you're saying about young people and this whole trafficking thing, man, like I think about it too, because you're talking about like Planned Parenthood and what they do with these young people. That opens up a whole nother wormhole, which I love to talk about. And we've talked about on the show before as well. It's like theoretically, the elites are using things like Planned Parenthood to gather stem cells and or maybe things like adrenochrome, or you know, like things that we shouldn't be talking about on YouTube. You know what I mean? Things like that, and extractions and things that they need to extend their life, right, from these abortions. And at least in that way, it is women consenting to having their children being used in this way. Because I think if it was possible, like it's almost the nicer way to go about it, because I think that these elite psychopaths, these groups that shall not be named, these psychopathic boys clubs, that you know, these secret societies, I think they would still be using these said products, extracts, things from children. But if we had like maybe if we got rid of abortion, they would have to get the real thing. I mean, and I think they do actually. I mean, honestly, man, when you think about how many kids go missing, like from the foster care system, how many kids slip through the cracks. Like I knew foster kids, dude. I grew up in like a very poor area. I knew these kids that were like being like used and abused and hurt in many different ways from like parents that were part of the system, and they would report it and they would talk about it. And guess what? They were just those systems. They didn't give a fuck, and more kids would just be given to these parents, and more kids would just be hurt because like it's disgusting, but it I don't even know the right word for it, but it's part of their agenda. They want hurt children, and they also need these people to hurt these people. It's really sick. It's really fucked up, man. Um, it's dark. It's fucking dark.
It is, because they want generational trauma, right? Because trauma makes good little soldiers for the government. And they tried to do that with the millennials, and I don't know what happened with our trauma, dude, but like we did a 180. We're just like, yeah, we're all traumatized. Yeah, we all kind of don't want to be on this dumpster fire of a planet. And they're like, well, do you want to go fight a war? And we're all like, no, I'd rather couch rot here and just like live in a box outside than fight for anything for you guys. Like they took it a little too far with the trauma with us. And I think that's what they're trying to do as well, especially with the adrenochrome, right? Like with fear and all of that stuff being pumped into like adrenaline in your body. So definitely they do want traumatized people, because traumatized people make better little soldiers for the leaders. Except if you add a little too much trauma in there, you get millennials.
Yeah, 100%, dude. We are the fucking. I mean, maybe someone could argue that this next generation is probably a little bit more traumatized than us, because I think about this. There was a time like we had the best of the 90s and the best of the 2000s. Like I don't. You're probably near the same age as me, but I remember a time in childhood without the internet. I remember a time where like when the internet first came, it was
Yes.
dial up and it was goofy, right? And like so there wasn't a way to like corrupt people on a mass scale besides like television, right? Like, and so like for me, like porn was like pixelated and weird, and I'd have to use the family computer to do it. So it was like in a centralized location in the living room, and I'd have to use dial up like this to try to see some boobs. And you'd have to like try to like sneak it in real fast before everybody else came, or unless somebody made a phone call, and then it would kick you off the internet. And like this age has no idea what that's like, because they have fucking cell phones. And like, you know, like, cause when I was a kid, the first time I saw porn, like, I don't know who did this, but like, I don't know if your experience was similar to mine. The first time that I saw porn, it was always somewhere in the woods. Like there was some hobo that would like hide porn mags under a log underneath a tree, and you just wildly come across it, and you'd be like, oh my god, there's porn here. And you'd be like looking at it, you're like, holy shit. And you like there was always a hobo that had a stash, like he was like a raccoon hiding his fucking acorns. And you'd come across it, and you'd be like,
and the best part is it was probably and the best part is it was probably the Sears catalog like underwear section, you know what I mean?
But that was enough.
It's like the top porn in the 90s was this Sears catalog. You go through like the underwear section, you're like, whoa, granny panties.
Yeah, so I would say that probably Zoomers are a little bit more traumatized
awesome.
than us, because they literally had like 2 girls, 1 cup at the touch of their fingers, and this horrible hellhole like Black Mirror cell phone. You know what I mean? This like they've grown up like, because dude, when I talk to my son, sometimes I'm like, they'll talk about like, yeah, I was like probably 10 when I first found a red room, and I was like, what the fuck? And like, I don't know if you know what that is, Tejana, but it's awful. And you're like I had no idea that you were
how did they get on the dark web?
Because I swear to God, these kids, they know, they like the second they touch one of these like pieces of equipment, like tech, they know how to use it. Like a 2-year-old can pick up a cell phone, and they can start like tweeting and shit. You're like, how the fuck do you know that? Like, it's generational. It's this weird fucking thing where like it is like trying to make like Cybermen. It is this like push for technocracy, like making kids like they are becoming like a symbiote and becoming like one with this technology. It's gross, but it's true. It's wild.
That's wild. That's crazy. I'm gonna actually look into that. I wonder if we have like generational knowledge, and then when they do a reset, they pretty much just like wipe us clean, and then we pretty much just start over. But we have maybe like just the trauma that they've passed on from our parents, and so they work on that. But I'm wondering if there's any way that maybe we can, tap into that knowledge of the ancient knowledge to see, because our DNA basically holds memory. Like they already proved that through scientific paperwork. So if we can maybe go through our DNA and somehow activate it to see if maybe we can bring knowledge from the past, from our ancestors, except like all we have is just trauma right now, but like maybe the good stuff knowledge that would help. That'd be a cool like thing to go down and look up. So that's definitely interesting.
100%, dude. You are fucking nailing it, because I think that is absolutely fucking true, because like there is like generational things where they can like teach in like laboratory settings. They can like teach like a mouse certain behaviors, and then they will allow them to like breed and make new babies. And these new babies, they literally have that same fucking behavior. They start learning these things, these generational, this DNA actually transfers knowledge. You're absolutely right. And so I wonder if that is why these new little goofball kids of ours, they can just like pick up a phone. Like, dude, I'm not kidding. Like, my wife will like have her phone out, and like my baby that's 2 years old will go boom, 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 boom. And you're like, and she's like, I don't know how he fucking got here, but he got to what he wanted like within an instant. Like she's like, I wouldn't be able to bring it up as fast as he did. Like he wants to watch Thomas the Train or something, and he just goes boom, 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 and Thomas the Train's on there, and he like, you're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if there is something to that where like there is like some generational
crazy cool.
It's wild, dude. But man, you're absolutely right about like there is like trauma that they are trying to inflict on us. But I like to think that there's also knowledge. And I love the idea of like maybe the Akashic records and maybe like our DNA holding on to like certain truths and certain knowledge, and that we might be able to tap into that if we're able to filter out the bullshit and the manipulation and the lies that they've been telling us for years and years and years. And maybe that takes deep meditation and like deep soul searching to really find the truth, because it is in us. And like, to me, that's the Holy Spirit when it says that God is inside of us, right? Like, to me, it's so much about like following your conscience. When we're talking about right and wrong, we're talking about like good and evil, we're talking about God, we're talking about being a Christian. It's like, I don't, like you saying, like I could go to my neighbor's house and I don't care if they have a different belief structure than me, as long as like they are speaking to the Godhead inside of them, like that piece, that spark of the divine that God gave us. We are a piece of the divine. We are like a sentient spirit trapped inside of a meat suit here on this planet right now in this temporal like location in this like weird fucking dimension. And we're stuck here right now. It is kind of like a flesh prison, but like if you get in touch with that little piece of the divine, that spark that God gave us, like I think that is that's how you go to heaven. That's how you transcend the flesh. That's how you transcend when you start listening to that, you start learning the lessons that we need to know. That's who we really are. And I think that there are like super psychopaths that are here, like maybe the Rothschilds, maybe like these groups that like Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, these Justin Trudeau, these fucking cunts here that are here for us to learn a lesson from. And I think that they're like speed bumps that they fucking set up in this course that we call life, and our job is to get over them and to transcend and to find out who we really are.
Exactly. It's almost like a video game, but it's also interesting that all of these elites who are super psychopathic and evil are inbred as fuck. Like they are so inbred that their genetics, I think, are damaged. And I think that's why they can't have the connection with the divine. And that's why it pretty much tells us incest is bad. Like mixing the same bloodline, absolutely bad. There's hormonal, built-in things where we find relatives don't smell, like attractive to us. That's another way our biological system is trying to tell us not to inbreed. You know what I mean? So now you have these like super powerful families that have been inbred for centuries. Can you imagine the damaged DNA that these people have? Like the fact that they maybe have, completely wiped out the godly aspect of their DNA and their genetics, So it could also be that as well, because ever since we've kind of I don't know, let them influence us, their narcissism has pretty much penetrated like the entire world and our society, to the point where you see so many narcissistic people, and narcissists aren't even smart. Like you want someone who can trump a narcissist, you get a sociopath and a psychopath, involved. Like, but so many narcissists, like the ego is up here, the IQ is like down here, and that fall is like super hard. You know what I mean?
100%. And then you start asking yourself why these people.
I definitely feel that. I just gotta let my dogs out just a sec. So
okay. This is a fun conversation. Everybody that's listening to this right now, thank you guys. I love my audience.
Sorry.
I appreciate you guys. You're all good. So I start thinking about the groups of these psychos and why they're fucking inbreeding. And the whole idea of you saying that they're like cutting out that piece of the divine, it's almost like it's cosmic irony, because theoretically, I think they're trying to keep like a chunk of the divine within their type of family, right? Because a lot of these people, they claim to have come from some like divine bloodline that gives them the right to rule over us rubes, because we are just fucking turds in the punch bowl, and they are supposed to be the fucking enlightened ones. They're supposed to be the Godhead, and they are supposed to have a spark of the divine. Maybe like they think that they were part of like the Nephilim. They're part of like the angelic bloodlines that or maybe a lot of them actually believe that they come from like the Merovingian bloodline. They have like the bloodline of Christ, and that's why they feel that they have the right to rule over us and things like that. And so they try to keep it within the family. I mean, that is like the reason why the royal bloodlines like failed so hard, and why there were so many like, I mean, my son was talking about him just the other day. Man, what was the name of that fucking bloodline? Where they had the Habsburgs, and they had the Habsburg jaw. They would come out like a fucking, would come out like this. Like all you have to do is Google this later. Google the Habsburg jaw. Yeah, and then you'll see what these fucking inbred like retarded morons looked like. And so it's just, it is funny, and these people do think that they are superior to us, and they're not. They're not. It's like if you think about like what helps in nature, like what is a stronger plant, is like it's like monoculture never helps. Monoculture creates like deformation, it creates weak stock, it creates like plants that like can't survive blights and things like that. Like that's what happened to a lot of apples, that's what happened to the banana, that's what happened to all these things. Like we need to all be mixing. That's what create like hybrid, not hybrids, what's the right word for it? Like dog mutts are much healthier, stronger dogs than purebreds. If you like try to get a purebred like Chihuahua, it's going to be all fucked up, and they talk about like having an apple head where it's like this, and then it has a little weird stupid nose. You're like, yep. Like that's like a trait that people want. You're like, oh, that's just a deformed dog. Like you think about it, you're like, this was a wolf at one time. What the fuck happened?
No, I totally get you, because like literally I've been looking down like the bloodlines too. We're like the only ones who have Rh negative in our blood. Like no other animal has Rh negative. So now I'm wondering like if maybe this Rh negative bloodline, like the Nephilim, or what these elites or deletes or parasite pieces of shit want, I think. And I always, oh, my dogs want back in, sorry. It's super cold outside, so I can't leave them out there to just bark at like random leaves and stuff. Yeah, it's snowing up here already. It's like -10. Yay, Canada. Woo! It's so much fun living up in the north. Everybody should do it. Not really. No, it hurts. It hurts to breathe out here sometimes. But yeah, I was looking at all the blood types, and I'm wondering like, maybe some of the blood types have something to do with the narcissism that they have put out into society. Because if you look at phenotypes of blood and you put it towards personality traits, apparently a lot of the Rh negative people, a lot, not all of them, have narcissism or narcissistic symptoms with them. So I think our DNA actually holds a lot more answers than a lot of people want to say, like think, but I don't think we have the technology right now to actually just discover the truth about DNA and its, everything that it can do. Because there's no way we have 92% junk DNA. Like if you look at evolution would never make it so that we have extra of anything where extra energy is being taken. Like evolution is evolving to be perfect with the system that you're with so that you can survive it, right? So I don't know. I've been looking at it from all different angles, and I don't know. Definitely, there's something wrong with the elite. One thing I do know is they want us to think they rule the earth. They don't. They are basically feeding us an illusion that they have all the control, but it's us with the powers, because they clearly need us for something, whether it's for energy, for emotional, like, yeah, exactly, right? Like anything emotional, anything that they need to siphon out of us for energy, like they need us. That means we are the ones that are leading.
We are
You know
the
what I
power.
mean? Not them. They just have the illusion that they're, all knowing, all.
We are the power 100%. No, these absolute psychopaths, they like it is magic in a lot of ways. Like, what is Congress doing when they pass a law? Like, when they tell us like this is now the law of the land. But what makes it work is our compliance. When we say okay, well, that's the law now, we have to
Yes.
do this. That is the power. That's honestly what makes the magic work. Like, it's it is broad compliance, and we are what gives these people power. So like some people, they don't like that whole idea of like the woo woo where they say that these people are like actual fucking lizard people that like harvest our energy, and that's how that they survive. You can say that that's a crazy thing to say, which I mean, I'm open to the idea personally, but practically that is what it is, right? It is this group of like
Oh,
psychopaths.
I am too.
It's these group of psychopaths that actually do
Exactly.
need and harvest our energy through corporations to keep this system going, to keep their structural power in place. And it's so like whether it's as woo woo and crazy as like you want to make it, or it's just as black and white as you want to make it, it is true. No matter what, this is them using us, these elites, these psychopaths, using us and our power and our energy to keep their systems of power in place, to fill their coffers, the Federal Reserve, the fucking Wall Street, these fucking the IMF, the International Monetary System, that whole international banking cartel. Again, this group of psychopaths that shall not be named. These people are literally harvesting our energy, our workforce, our life force, us putting our fucking ourselves like these people are fucking psychos, and they're literally fucking fuck them. The most radical thing you can do is say, I mean, and it's hard to do this, but it's like quit your fucking job, tell them to go fuck themselves, and do your own thing. That's the most radical thing you can fucking do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Be a complete individual, man. Like just totally just say screw the system, because I don't know. I wonder if people ever wake up like, why are you born on a planet that's not free to live for only human beings? It's free to live for every other animal species on this planet. It gets all of its resources from Mother Earth, and we are the only species on this planet that have to get up, work, pay taxes. We have value of money, which, as you said, is just an extension of your time. It absolutely holds no actual like monetary value. You are literally selling your soul time on this planet away with like money, pretty much. And I don't understand how people think that this is how we were meant to be. Like, you're telling me that evolution or God or however you think we got on this planet, that we made it through thousands of years, and now we're what, just a bunch of like workers, pieces into a bigger machine that just eats us up and like spits us out, you know what I mean? Where we get absolutely no enjoyment, no fulfillment from our souls. And I wonder how these people like go through life. Like, is that what you think life is? Like, oh, I'm gonna finish university, become a doctor, and then die. That's it. Like, dude, that is so sad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, dude. Like, this goes back to things like what these psychopaths actually believe in, and you can start talking about like their structures of like, because I mean I understand there's like people that go like, you actually believe that these people believe that they have these like these weird rituals and like religious beliefs, and I'm like, it doesn't matter if you believe it, these people do believe it. Like, and like it makes me think of like Saturn worship and the whole idea of like who Saturn was, like the idea of like the deity and the idea of the like power structure of Saturn. He was also called Kronos, and Kronos is like the god of like time, and he's stealing and harvesting people's time and controlling people. He was the god of order and control, and like the whole like the black cube, the whole Saturn worship, these Saturnian fucking cults. I think about this where like in the 1800s, when the whole like industrial revolution happened, they had figured out how to like maximize like productivity and efficiency and like make a million of like these faggot widgets, whatever the fuck it is. Like they're like, I can make a million faggot widgets right here. And but you have to have somebody that's willing to go to work and just push one button. This guy just pushes this one button to make a faggot widget. This guy over here does this one thing over here to make the faggot widget. This guy does this over here to make the faggot widget. And you had to like get like a certain amount of people to all do one fucking thing to create this like and that's how we created these like dumb things to create the whole idea of capitalism. And do you know that like before this, the whole idea of time didn't, it existed in the fact that you were like, hey, this is the time that we wake up, but like we would listen to our internal clocks, we'd listen to our body. So like during the winter, the sun would rise later, so we would wake up later. We would wake up with our internal clock. And the whole idea of us like now it's summertime, so now this is like harvest time. This is like when we have to create food, we have to like take care of our livestock and things like that. We would wake earlier and things like this. But the whole idea of like measuring and controlling time was all around this like early 1800s, around the Industrial Revolution, because they needed people to show up on time at a certain place, and they started measuring time. So like that's when this whole push of like having stopwatches, and they were telling, hey, if you are a wealthy man, you're gonna have a pocket watch, so that you can show up to a certain place on time, because we need you here at like Amazon Prime in the 1800s. We need you here to keep the lights going, to keep this machine going. And so like to me, that's like, that is Saturnian, that is Kronos worship. This like, because we used to listen to our internal fucking clocks. We used to like, it's wintertime, I'm not waking up until 10 a.m. And that's when my fucking rooster's gonna crow. That's when I'm gonna get up and start milking the cows. That's when I'm gonna start like taking care of the household. You know, like that's what we're supposed to be running on, right? But now we're like giving our fucking time and energy and our life force to these giant mega fucking corporations. Like, and I'm no different. I'm doing the same thing. I work for Babylon. I'm doing fucking terrible things just so that I can pay for my family.
Same.
But you know, it fucking sucks, man. But I love my family, so I'm fucking participating in the system currently and paying my taxes like an asshole so that I can fund the fucking psyop that's happening in Israel and the psyop that's happening in the Ukraine right now, because it's all proxy war bullshit, right? Like it fucking sucks, dude.
It is.
But if you start looking into it like and internally, it's Saturnian worship. It's these fucking psychopaths, this elite, quote unquote, these Habsburg jaw, like little dick, fucking inbred, low IQ, narcissistic cunt motherfuckers that should. Hey, if you think that there's a problem with overpopulation, start with yourself, bitch.
Yeah, literally, you know what I mean? I just like how you call them small dick. I call them micro penis bitches. So it's like, love it. Oh man, that was awesome. That was the best rant ever. I just felt like I was right back at work with all the guys because like some of the shit they say, but like you say it too, so I'm just gonna be like I'm taking notes of like I'm gonna talk about this on Monday.
Fucking A. Ah,
That's
Tejana,
awesome.
this was a fucking blast, dude. Do you want to? Where should we take the conversation now? Is there some things that our audience needs to know? What's going on in Canada? What's going on in life? This lag is a killer.
Going on in life? Did I hear it correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so life right now, I'm just working super busy. I don't know what's going on with Canada. I think it's because we're so lacking in housing that this summer has been absolutely a gong show for any of us contractors. I've been working like 15, 16-hour days. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm going to escape the matrix. Eventually, I'll get out of the matrix. And I fucking wake up every day like an idiot, go to work like early, you know, and I easily fuck the system. I don't want to do this anymore. And then they're like, oh, World War III is coming. I'm like, do it. I don't even care anymore, man. Like, you can't even talk about shit up here in Canada. PM soon. You know what I mean? Like, shit, I'm gonna need a lot of vodka to get through this winter of like, you know, living in northern Canada with Justin Trudeau at the helm. That little cocksucker. Anyway, I'll end. I won't say too much because he's on a full-on dictator like shit. So I might end up being in jail for calling him a fucktard or something. I don't know, something stupid. He's so sensitive. But yeah,
Well,
Canada's cold. We're getting snow. And yeah, I keep telling myself. Yeah, sorry.
I'll call him a faggot for you because you can't. It's probably illegal in Canada.
Oh, you guys are gonna have to start bootlegging, or we're gonna start making moonshine up here.
You should be.
All right. Yeah, it's
Tejana, this
seriously
was
on.
so
Oh,
much
I already
fun.
make my own liquor, but like I sorry.
I said this was so much fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, it was. Honestly, thanks for having me on, and hopefully I'll get my internet figured out, or I'll get Starlink because I'm out in the middle of nowhere and I don't know what's wrong with my internet. I'm tired.
Tejana, you're the best. This was a lot of fun. Tell our audience one more time, what's the best way? Like, do you have a way? Do you have a Patreon? Do you have some way that they can support you? They can fund your mission? Because, like, dude, you're honestly like, you're fucking doing the Lord's work out there. You're fucking kicking ass. Your research is awesome. You're always on top of this shit. I want my audience to like know who you are. What's the best way to support Tejana, Truth Seeker? What's the best way to fucking support you, dude?
Honestly, I've been doing it all for free, including all of the town hall meetings. They've all come out of my own pocket because I work. But we're trying to kind of take this off full time here by the new year so that I can, you know, start exposing Pfizer, all of that stuff. By then we'll figure something out. But right now, like literally, I have no support. It's just me funding me. So I'm like horribly organized when it comes to capitalism and making money. I just know I contract and that's it. Other than that, just probably my Facebook, you know, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Until then, I'll figure something out where maybe I could hopefully, you know, put at least half a day into this and get real information out there, things that people can take to court, like with the vaccines and the government, and like really get the compensation that they deserve. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. Tejana, you're the best, dude. I appreciate you, homie. This was a fucking great conversation. I'm gonna close out here with a little promo for my co-host here, Thomas. He is doing a comic book called the Frazzle Drip Funhouse, and he has a little intro, and so I'm gonna play that as our like exit. It's really awesome. You're gonna love it, and our audience is gonna love it too. And it'll probably get us kicked off of YouTube, but that's okay. Uh, so we'll play that, and then we'll end out, and then hang on because I want to talk to you afterward. All right, thank you, Tejana.
Sounds
Frazzle Drip
good.
Funhouse. Enter, if you dare, the world of an animatronic bear whose metallic heart beats with a thirst for justice, a hunger for revenge. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, connoisseurs of the macabre and seekers of the scandalous. Your voracious appetites for chilling narratives are about to be satiated by the heart-stopping, pulse-pounding creation of Paranoid American and Winged Sun Comics. Abandoned in the dusty corners of amusement, now awoken in the murk of wickedness perpetrated by an evil elite. This is not your childhood fairy tale, but a macabre dance of vindication, soaked in crimson, a symphony of screams echoing in the dimly lit chambers of malevolence. Be prepared for an onslaught of ghastly gore and titillating terror. A wicked waltz through twisted hallways and blood-stained basements where only the brave dare to tread. Quake at the bear's unyielding pursuit, cackle at the sharp and sardonic one-liners, shudder at the graphic, gratuitous scenes that harken back to the glory days of B-horror flicks. Frazzle Drip Funhouse is your ticket to a thrill ride of terror. A carnival of carnage where the laughs are as loud as the screams. Uncover the truth beneath the rust and the blood, and remember, nothing is as it seems. Are you ready to step into the Frazzle Drip Funhouse, where the animatronic eyes are always watching, and vengeance is a game that everyone can play? Get your backer exclusive cover on Indiegogo. For more information, visit paranoidamerican.com.